County. I thank you all for joining our call today. We're excited to have familiar faces, as I said, and some new faces on the call. My name is Helen Anderson. Last October, I volunteered to co-chair the Social Issues Committee along with Diana Shoemaker and did not realize what an important education that I was about to get. Social issues covers a very broad array of important topics from drug addiction to immigration, and our members identified it affordable housing and homelessness as the issues most important to understand and address together first. Over the last 11 months, I began to understand more deeply how fundamental, safe, stable, and affordable housing is to our well-being as humans and how difficult the pathway to housing can be for some of our neighbors. Currently, about 44% of Manatee County residents are at risk of homelessness due to the skyrocketing rental and home prices in our area. And I'm going to put in the chat a recent article and study that I found that ranked the Bradenton area 8th on the list of least affordable small American cities. This crisis is magnified by costs and delays in construction, long waiting lists for existing housing, and of course, the pandemic. The daily stress of trying to find or stay in a home is wearing on the individuals and families navigating this difficult path. Without a home, it's harder to find a job, for children to attend school consistently, or to get the healthcare you need. I understand now that collaboration and creative solutions are needed to put housing first for all of our community members, and today's discussion is one step in that direction. I'd like to welcome two wonderful people from Turning Points. We have Margie Dawson, Director of Development, and Kathleen Kramer, the Executive Director. Over the last 26 years, Turning Points has evolved into the main support system for men, women, and children in Manatee County who are at risk of homelessness or currently homeless. Today, we'll be learning about the many, many services offered by Turning Points that assist families and individuals every day, as well as some inspiring stories of compassionate landlords in our community who are partnering with Turning Points to create safe, stable, and rental opportunities for families, veterans, and individuals who are experiencing the daily challenges of the affordable housing crisis in our country or county. Throughout the presentation, please put any questions or thoughts in the chat and we'll be sure to address them at the end in the Q&A. I'm going to hand it over to you, Margie.
Thank you, Helen, and welcome everyone to this very special Empower Hour. So I am Margie Dawson, and I am your tour guide for today. And you're going to learn the many services that Turning Points is offering for those most in need in the community. And those range from housing to basic needs to clinical services. And first, I'm going to introduce you to our newer Executive Director, Kathleen Kramer.
Hello, everyone. I get newer because my predecessor was here 26, or no, how long was she here? 16 years. I've been here just over a year. So I keep counting myself as new. I kind of like the, I feel like I have at least another 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, that I can call myself the new executive director. But I actually joined Turning Points mid-pandemic. I started in May, and so you can imagine it's been just over a year, a little over a year now. And it was interesting, and it's my very favorite line from one of our staff members is that every day is an adventure at Turning Points, and it sure is, especially during the pandemic. And so when I decided, so I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time, and my husband and I had decided we wanted to move a little further south and bring it down to Florida. And so I started looking for the right position for me. And I don't know about you all, but I like to talk things through. And so I have, your trusted friends that you call when you have a big decision to make. And of course, my most trusted is my mother. And so I called up Mom and I said, here's what I'm looking at doing. What do you think about this? And what she said will stay with me forever. So I obviously didn't realize how much my parents struggled financially when I was a kid, because she said to me, I think you'll do great things, but I want you to promise me one thing, that if you take this job, that you will serve every person that walks through your door with kindness, compassion, and respect. She said that there were times when they did have to go to organizations for assistance for our family, and that it was terribly embarrassing to get to a point where you had to even ask. My dad worked really hard. They had 5 kids and they were proud. And so to bring themselves to go to an organization to ask for assistance was very difficult. But she said every single time it was the staff that either made it better or they made it worse. And so I heard her, and we do strive every day here at Turning Points to work and serve with compassion. So you heard that 44% of Manatee County families are like my family was, earning above poverty level, probably making enough to cover their basic expenses every month, but they are still living on the brink of financial disaster. To put it in perspective, 44% of Manatee County is approximately 182,000 people. That just blew me away. 182,000 people in Manatee County are at risk for homelessness today because they are probably paying their bills every month, but all it takes is that one unexpected cost that becomes the first domino that can result in homelessness. That transmission blows up in their car and it costs $2,000. Well, if you don't have $2,000 sitting somewhere else, you have to then start to juggle. You have to figure, do you pay your light bill? Do you pay for food? Do you pay your rent? And that often can be that cascading effect. And here at Turning Points, we show up every day to advocate for those who are vulnerable in our community. People who are experiencing homelessness, they're human beings. They are our family. They are our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers. We often don't even know it. You'll hear a story about that today. But there's something I want to make sure that everybody understands, because we talk about homeless people a lot, but there's a really important distinction, and you ladies are out there being wonderful advocates in the community. So I want to make sure that you're using the right language as you're out there in the community. First and foremost, they are human. And secondly, they are humans in the situation of homelessness. It is not who they are, it's what they're going through. So we really talk about people who are experiencing homeless, not homeless people, because it's just something they're going through. We know that their lives are not disposable. Their needs have to be addressed with urgency and compassion, the same urgency and compassion as those who have housing. And I know you understand this. Poverty and homelessness is not somebody else's problem. It's not their problem. It truly is our problem. It affects all of us. And our goal is to show up every day to serve those who are experiencing homelessness and those who are at risk of homelessness. So last year we served 7,072 clients. And that was with 167,550 services. So a service could be a shower, could be clothing, could be a meal, could be that they came to get their mail. This was a 5% increase over the year before. Significant, but not, it wasn't like through the roof. I think it's important to talk about that, but it was in our housing department. So we had, of those numbers, of the 7,072, 1,695 identified as homeless, 403 were veterans, and 126 were homeless veterans. Something that I think our media has done to us is they have portrayed those who are experiencing homelessness as men who are 65 plus, 60 plus. But really here at Turning Points, we are 50-50 men and women that we serve here. And yes, our biggest category of age is 45 to 64 at 34% of who we serve. But those who are 25 to 44 are less than 100 people behind that we serve. So they're 32% of who we serve. And so that's a very different picture than what we're used to hearing about. And of course, it has been an incredible year at Turning Points with COVID. And COVID turned a lot of how we did business like on its head, right? A lot of the way we provided services, that got turned upside down. But we have some amazingly compassionate and dedicated staff and volunteers. And so we didn't end up shutting down for even one day during COVID. And I could not be more proud of how people pulled together, they rolled up their sleeves, and they got really creative in how we could serve our community. And as I mentioned, our housing and utility team has been particularly challenged this year. So they brought in, just this past month, in August, they took in 480 applications for rent and utility assistance, just in the month of August. And that is a 43% increase over August of last year. So we have definitely seen an increase with housing and utility services, absolutely. And you heard a little bit about it. When the pandemic started, our rental rates since then, since March of 2020, our rental rates have grown 31%. And with our real estate boom, unfortunately what's happened is many of our amazing landlords that we've worked with decided to sell their units. And so they had affordable units, and I don't blame them. They had a good opportunity and they sold their units. So that really cut the number of units that were available. And then we were also seeing a lot of increased rental costs. Again, as the demand goes up, we can't blame our landlords for doing it, but it is causing a significant crisis in affordable housing. We absolutely need more affordable housing units. We have clients who need housing. We have the funds to assist them, but we have very few units to put them in. Even in the new complexes, people will say, well, we have all these new apartment complexes that are more affordable. They already have a 2-year waiting list for our folks to get in there. And so it is incredibly stressful, as you can imagine, for individuals and families trying to navigate the housing system. And many of them have never had to navigate it before because there's been affordable units available and they've had steady income. But with COVID, again, it's turned everything upside down. And you know that with the stability of housing comes the stability of jobs, comes the stability in schooling. But then with all this turning upside down, folks are now trying to navigate this system with very few houses to find. And it really does, that stable housing is critical to maintaining the jobs, critical for kids to do well in school, and critical to mental health. I mean, this has already been an incredibly difficult year for individuals. And so you can imagine the stress that comes along with being worried about losing your home and not being able to find anywhere else to go into. So we're really working to support folks on their journey. We do have a housing specialist, and she works with our landlords. We do have incredible landlords that work with us, and we try to maintain those relationships as much as possible and solve any challenges that may arise. And our housing specialist has been helping folks, to try to find places. She keeps up on what is available and when things come open, helping to try to navigate with a landlord if there's any challenges there to negotiate. But it just has been an incredibly challenging year. And so we have focused on the past year, just a little bit, about where we're going with turning points. I said at the beginning of the year, we're looking at sustaining, evolving, and expanding. And we've been doing that. And the reality is we need to keep doing those same things. So we have been focusing on investing in our people, investing in our talent practices, really working to achieve financial security and sustainability for the organization. And we hired a new HR director, our first ever, and that was really wonderful, which has given a lot of stability. And we focused on empathy training for all of our staff and volunteers, which is done by somebody who has dedicated their lives to working in the second largest homeless shelter in Illinois. And so it's wonderful training that talks about empathy being the way to serving our clients. And so we're really proud of that. We did increase our minimum pay at Turning Points to $15 an hour this year. So we were happy about that. We've been focusing on, I mentioned, becoming sustainable as an organization financially. And if you know, almost all nonprofits start out at zero, ones who have to do fundraising. You look at your, your budget, you have this great year, and then, the next day you're at zero again. And so we work with a program that is about multi-year giving. And so instead of starting at zero, we ask our partners, our donors, to commit to a 5-year pledge of $1,000 or more each year. So you don't start out at zero. You get this lovely base of funds that you already know is coming in from those who support you, and then you continue to fundraise on top of that. And so we started the Be the Key Society this year, and that has been a really wonderful way for our donors to partner with us. It's not just a gift, it's an investment in our programs, our mission, and our community. We talked about evolving, and that has been the biggest thing we've done. We've tried to innovate, we've tried to collaborate, we've tried to improve our program design so that it's maximum benefit to our families. And COVID kicked us right out of our comfort zone and made us do those things. And so in that way, it's been a positive for us. But we know that now more than ever, we need creative solutions. We need collaborations. And so we are looking to remove barriers and being able to do that, through partnerships, working smarter, more effectively. We do plan to expand, and expanding has taken a different turn during COVID as well. It's not just about offering services somewhere else. It's about telehealth. It's about application software instead of folks having to drive in here to Turning Points. It's about offering access. We offer free Wi-Fi now for our clients here at Turning Points. And those were things that, kind of it shifted a little with COVID. But the key is we can't do it alone. And so that's why I love that you all are here hearing about what we're doing, because we need businesses, we need partners, individuals to partner with us on our work. We need more landlords. Obviously, and if you know folks who are willing to provide affordable housing to our clients, make sure that they contact us so we can be working with them, getting them on our housing list, making sure we're partnering. One of the most important things that we need are advocates. And I know you ladies are not afraid to advocate. And I think advocating actually scares people, terrifies them. You said, we want you to be an advocate. And they're like, you want me to go march on Capitol Hill? And I'm like, no, I just want you to repost our social media posts and spread the word, because an advocate is somebody who helps you spread the word. And so we absolutely need folks who are willing to share our social media posts, invite other people to Empower Hour, help us make all of these connections. Because the reality is, I only know so many people. Margie only knows so many people. But then when we can invite you to come, and then you can think about inviting those people it just grows exponentially. When I started, we started doing some tours halfway through my first year. And folks were saying to me over and over, I don't know what it was, something in the universe, because they use the same language. They kept saying, this place is the best kept secret in Manatee County. And while that's amazing that people think we're a good organization, I don't like the best kept secret part. Like, that needs to end. We need to be the best known organization in Manatee County, not because it benefits us, but because when somebody in need in our community comes up to somebody and divulges, shares, as difficult as that is, that they need some kind of service or support, we want that person to be able to say, you should call Turning Points because they provide that service there. So we want to educate our community about what we provide so that when somebody's in need, they don't have to wait. They can get the connection to the services. And really, we're excited for what's ahead. We're always looking for more opportunities to help our community members achieve self-sufficiency and just basically have great futures. And for me, it's personal in the sense that I've never experienced homelessness, even though I had some challenges with my family as a kid. But both of my brothers suffered from a methamphetamines addiction. And I saw both of them. They both ended up in jail, one in prison at some point. And today they're doing amazing. And I saw them struggle to rebuild their lives along with the sobriety. So I know that it can happen. I've seen it happen. And I want to be a part of that, helping other people have an opportunity to rebuild their lives as well. And many of the people that we have that we serve here have extreme trauma in their lives, and that creates even more barriers to whatever brought them to homelessness. Their journey here is full of twists and turns, starts and stops. I mean, when you are trying to rise out of homelessness, it is not easy. And at Turning Points, our goal is just to walk with our clients on their journey, support them, encourage them without judgment, and help guide them towards more stability, whatever that is for them. And so we are excited to be here. We're excited to have you. I'm excited to answer your questions at the end, but I'm going to hand it back off to Margie, who's going to introduce you to some clients and some of our staff members at Turning Points.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. And at Turning Points, we do treat everyone with dignity, kindness, and respect. So I know that Kathleen's mom is so proud of the work that she is doing here. So I'm going to show some videos for you. I'll be coming back in between to talk about them a little bit. And they all are some type of housing related, and you're going to learn so much. So now you're going to meet Jackie Love, and you're going to watch when she shared her story during our outdoor 25th anniversary event last year.
Hello. Thank you all for coming, and I just wanted to share a little bit of my story with you guys. Some of you might know it. It started out it was a little over 10 years ago, actually more than that, about 15 years ago. My husband had a job working, doing cabinets, woodworking, things like that, and we were staying in a little apartment living paycheck to paycheck. And he came home one day and said he got laid off. There was no more work. And I'm like, are you serious? Rent's due in like 2 weeks and we have no money. So eventually, you know, he tried so hard to get another job and he couldn't. And we got that eviction notice, and eventually we had to get out, and we didn't have anywhere to go. We basically took what we thought was, you know, most important to us with us, some clothes, things like that. And we had a 2-man tent, and we went over by the railroad tracks over by Tropicana and put a tent up there. Well, the first night we were in there, it rained. Didn't know that tents were not waterproof. We woke up soaked, wet. The ground was hard. My body was numb. It was pretty bad. So one day we're walking by and saw a couch on the side of the road, and I'm like, hey, let's get the cushions, you know. So we put all the cushions in the tent and covered it up, and it was much better. And we wound up getting tarps and then getting things to build it up on for the time being until we were able to, you know, get further along. But a lot of time when you are homeless, you do kind of get into a depression, and you know, you don't feel good about yourself. Sometimes society make you feel like that. So, but my husband told me about Turning Points, and I was like, let's try this out, you know. I said, I really want to do something here. And when I came here, I got so much love, so much respect. I was able to take a shower instead of going in a racetrack bathroom where they trespassed me. But anyway, because I was just, you know, using the bathroom to wash my hair or things like that. But here it was wonderful. I got my clothes washed. I was able to feel good about myself, and everybody backed me up here. It was so awesome. I was like, wow, these people really care. You know, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I told my husband, I said, you know, honey, it's okay. You can, because he's an artist, he does have a lot of paintings in here. Ben Love is his name. But I told him, I said, honey, you stay home and you do your painting, and I'll go out and see what I can do. And then Super Bowl Sunday of 2010, I found out I was pregnant. And I'm like, okay, now we're in this tent. I'm out in the woods. I said, we really got to do something now. So I actually wound up getting my first job. I was very excited, and with the help from everybody here, you know, gave me the confidence I needed to do that. And I'm like, well, I still need to get a little more money because it was only part-time. So I went and got a second job. And so I wound up having 2 jobs. And it was enough to where Turning Points actually said, hey, you know, we'll get you a place. So it was actually the first apartment right down here on the left. There's a green house down there, and that was our first apartment. And they paid my first 4 months rent. They paid my electric bill, the down payment, and my old electricity bill that I had. And I was in awe, and I'm like, wow, this is great, this is happening. I was 5 months pregnant when we moved in. And then I was able to, in the meantime, get my license back. I got like a $1,200 car at the time, things like that. So basically within 8 years, we saved up enough money, and 2 years ago we moved into our 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. And thank you. And my son, he's now 10, he likes to come here when, I'm a volunteer too with doing the laundry. And my son likes to come help. And he loves it. He loves to come with me, and he likes to give back. And I just want to thank Turning Points so much for everything that you have done for my family. I thank you so much.
I love when Jackie shares that story. I mean, she's just so wonderful. We actually see her. She volunteers. She still volunteers every week here in our laundry room. So she spoke about the love and the respect that she received when she came to Turning Points. And that came from our compassionate volunteers in our Day Resource Center. So before COVID-19, families like Jackie's were served by about 160 volunteers a month. But many, understandably, because of health and age restrictions, couldn't come in to volunteer. So at one point we were down 60% in volunteers. But just like Kathleen said, I'm also very proud that we did not close for even one day during the entire pandemic. Both less volunteers, sometimes we couldn't guarantee all of our services would be open. So when Jackie started on the path out of homelessness, she started at the Day Resource Center. So this is the program where men and women experiencing homelessness and those at risk can come in daily, Monday through Friday, for services. So when you are literally homeless, you are living somewhere uninhabitable, like when Jackie spoke about living in that tent. And when you're at risk, you could be doubling up, couch surfing, or living in an apartment where every cent that you have is going toward rent and bills. So the services at the Day Resource Center covers these basic needs. And these are services that our clients told us they needed and that they wanted. And these services include, and I always use a little cheat sheet, intake counseling. So a client talks to someone, sits down with a counselor, tells their story. Can we help them, or one of our partner agencies help them? We have 3 hot showers here. We give everyone hygiene kits. We have laundry service. That's where Jackie is. So our clients drop off clothes, 1 bag a week. We wash, dry, fold them, and give it back to them. And it's just that dignity of having some clean clothes. I mean, that makes such a big difference. We distribute clothing and shoes. We have a mail room, a wall of like mail slots, because people actually use Turning Points to dress. So this is a safe place to get their mail. Because when you are bouncing in between places, where are you going to get your mail? You just don't think about that. We have food stamp application assistance. This is huge. We have volunteers that are trained just with this, and they know how to navigate through like DCF and the application process and really help walk our clients through that process. We help people get birth certificates from states, every state in the United States, because in turn, we help them get that state ID, because we know you can't get a job or you can't rent a place without an ID. We do haircuts here. Every Wednesday, we have volunteer barbers that cut hair out on our patio. We have computers, 7 computers here. We have 2 telephones for our clients to use. We have employment services. The Goodwill Minnesota Job Connections office is here. So a full-time Goodwill employee works with our staff, our volunteers, in helping people get a job. We have transportation assistance with bus passes. We give out reading glasses. We have free notary services. And we also distribute bikes and do bike repair here. So we distribute about 600 bikes a year, because that is someone's only mode of transportation. And this is where we need your help, because we always have needs in the Day Resource Center. We always need help recruiting volunteers, and we need bikes. So go through your garages, see if there's a bike that you're not using, and then help us spread the word. Like Kathleen said, invite everyone to an Empower Hour so that they can see all the volunteer opportunities and anything that's available at Turning Points. So next, I'm going to show another video for you, and you're going to meet Liz. And Liz is one of 6 case managers in our rental and utility assistance department. This is where Kathleen said, They really had the hardest job. They had the biggest increase in helping our clients. And Liz is going to talk about the importance of a safe place and the services that we provide on housing, utilities, and for veterans.
Hello. As you surely know from watching the news, talking to your friends and family, even having a conversation with neighbors over the fence, COVID has been a struggle for so many Floridians. Even if you don't actually get the virus, you still feel its impact, probably on almost every aspect of your life. And that was especially true for one of my clients, Khadijah. Khadijah is a single mom. She has 3 children. 2 are in middle school, 1 is in elementary. And when the nation began shutting down last spring, Khadijah's job as a waitress at a diner disappeared. She was told by her manager she was being furloughed indefinitely. Of course, Khadijah had no way of knowing, much like the rest of us, that this indefinite furlough would be for more than just a week or 2. We had no way of knowing that it was going to last for almost a year. But Khadijah tried to be optimistic. She wanted to look on the bright side. She decided this would give her a chance to spend more time with her kids. She would be off work so she could help them acclimate to e-learning. She immediately filed for unemployment, and she knew that she could also rely on the child support she was receiving from the father of her children. However, reality soon set in, as it always does. She realized there were some things that were gone that she used to be able to rely on. For example, she had breakfast and lunch free from the school. That was no longer the case. She also realized that her light bill and her water bill skyrocketed because they were all home all day long. So she had to think fast and make some key priorities come to the forefront. She decided she would use what money she was getting from unemployment and child support for groceries, the light bill, and the water bill. That way her children would have no idea that she was struggling financially. Like so many parents, she didn't want her kids to think anything was wrong. She wanted them to know that if they opened the refrigerator or flicked the light, everything would be normal, everything would seem fine. She, of course, also realized she needed to start applying for as many jobs as she could. And she went to her landlord and begged for his patience. Could he please not post notices? Could he work with her on the late rent? He said, of course, this was an extraordinary situation. But by the end of the summer, Khadijah owed over $2,000 in rent. And somehow she was also behind on her FPL bill. She did get a part-time job, but the dining room capacity was very limited and people weren't leaving tips like they used to because most of them were ordering takeout. Things were really starting to get tough for Khadijah. Thankfully, her landlord told her to apply for help at Turning Points. During the intake interview I did with Khadijah, I could tell she was holding back tears. She explained to me this was a huge issue for her to have to apply for help. She hadn't worked with Turning Points or any other agency like this in over 7 years. And that was back when she was first getting her divorce and becoming a single parent. She had promised herself back then she would never need help from an agency again. So I could tell that she was really swallowing her pride at this point. But I assured her that I was glad she had reached out, and I was honored to be able to be there for her, because no one should have to face homelessness, especially with children, and no one should have to do it in the middle of an unprecedented pandemic. 2 days later, I was so excited to call Khadijah and give her some good news. I told her 2 checks were in the mail. One would be going to her landlord to catch her up on the rent. The second, would be going to FPL to make sure she did not have any disconnection of service. That time when we talked, Khadijah didn't hold back tears. She actually cried, but it was because she was so relieved. She was relieved because her kids would never have to know that they almost lost everything. Here at Turning Points, we work tirelessly to prevent exactly that from happening. And we also strive to help those who are experiencing homelessness get off the streets and into safe and stable housing. During the 2019-2020 fiscal year, we served 500 households. This fiscal year, we served almost 700 households, which is an increase of 40%. Those 700 households, by the way, included nearly 1,000 children. This just makes it clear how much COVID-19 has brought so many of our neighbors here in Manatee County to their knees. We also strive to help veterans. In fact, we gave assistance to 142 veterans and their families via the Yellow Ribbon Program. Veterans receive case management from a fellow veteran because we want to make sure those who serve our country get the care they deserve in their civilian life. Case managers like me, we have the opportunity to change statistics into solutions. We get to help renew pride and restore dignity. But our challenge right now is that many of the grants we use to help people have incredibly strict guidelines. And that means that some of our applicants are falling through the cracks. Our goal is to make sure that does not continue to happen. We want to have additional funding set aside for those special circumstances where a family or individual doesn't quite fit the criteria or they're having a pressing emergency. So many of our neighbors, like Khadijah, want to financially sustain themselves. They simply need a helping hand, especially because of this pandemic. At the end of the day, we do not want to turn anyone away, and we definitely don't want to leave a veteran behind. We want everyone to experience the freedom and independence that comes from having a safe place to call.
So did you notice in Liz's story, it was her landlord that recommended Turning Points. So he is actually one of several compassionate landlords that we have solid relationships with because they know of our services, they know that we can help. It's good for the client and it's good for them. So we love that we have these relationships with them. So next, we're going to turn our focus on our free medical and free dental clinic. So our clinic is based on that belief that it's a fundamental right that every human being should have attainable health care. And Maria, who is an Army veteran, a 20-year Army veteran, is going to tell us some more. And this video I'm going to show you was from our special hats, heels, and bow ties edition of Empower Hour. Because COVID, we had to cancel all our events. And so one time during Empower Hour, during the Derby, we all wore our hats. Just because we miss being in person. One day we'll get there. So she's also going to share a very personal and compelling story with you guys. So here's Maria.
Turning Point services are only for the homeless. You may hear this out there, but I hear this all the time. In fact, less than 10% of those who use our clinical services are homeless. Our patients are men and women of our local community who work in retail, local manufacturing companies, and in our local tomato and orange fields. So just imagine working 2 minimum paying jobs, working 40+ hours every week, and you get sick. You don't have any insurance, and you definitely cannot afford to go to urgent care. So what do? You come to Turning Points. We have dentists and volunteer physicians on staff that are here to serve. Our clinic offers the same standards of care that you would expect at your own medical and dental clinic. Our dental patients receive regular cleanings, fillings, x-rays, extractions. We even offer emergency walk-ins, and if they need one, a new smile. One of our top services that we provide is Project Smile. Last year alone, we provided over 400 dentures, which equated to 400 beautiful new smiles. In our medical clinic, patients are assigned a primary care provider and referred to a specialty care provider if necessary. In fact, on site, we have acupuncture, cardiology, dermatology, endocrinology, ear, nose, and throat, gynecology, nephrology, neurology, definitely pharmacy, podiatry, pulmonology, and I haven't been here in over a month, so they probably have some more that are not on my list off the top of my head. But I don't know about you, but I don't have all these specialty doctors at my own clinic. So spread the word. Turning Points is not just a place that helps the homeless. Help us educate everyone that you meet that there is a place that can help. Let me tell you about Carmen. When Carmen arrived at Turning Point, she was a 32-year-old single mom of a toddler and a preteen girl. Carmen had fled domestic violence the year before, and she was able to get into a local shelter and find some work to support herself and her daughters, but there was something else missing. Carmen loved people, but she just did not feel right being around them. There was just something about her whole presence that kind of kept her with her hand out, distancing people, even though she loved being around people. And that was because she suffered from periodontal disease. And due to that dental issue, she was missing a couple of teeth. She also struggled with obesity, managing her diabetes, and high blood pressure. But you could see that Carmen wanted more. But her lack of confidence and her self-worth were so palpable. But she was mostly ashamed of that smile. After completing her eligibility process, Carmen was assigned a dentist and a primary care physician, and both clinics developed a year-long treatment plan that included enrollment into our diabetes program, our high blood pressure program, and Project Smile. And she went to every appointment with our in-house medical providers, our specialty care providers, our dentists, our pharmacists, and Carmen was provided all her medication free of charge from our pharmacy. She was offered and attended high blood pressure and diabetes education, and she was excited to hear about all the nutritional information that she can get from our specialty doctors. She was so committed. At her 6-month follow-up, Carmen had lost 30 pounds. Her diabetes and blood pressure were under control, and she had learned to manage her diabetes, her high blood pressure, and all her other diagnoses. She had been taught what to look for, what to eat, and what to do during those spikes. But what Carmen was most excited about was her new smile. Carmen absolutely shined. She walked taller, straighter, and with a lot more confidence. And I could not help but think she is unstoppable. And her daughters are now being raised by a more confident role model. Carmen was one of over 400 dental patients we gave back their smiles to. But let's look at a few other before and afters. And you can see the immediate change. They absolutely are amazing. I believe our clinical services are one of the most critical services we provide at Turning Point. In 2010, my husband of 10 years was diagnosed with diabetes. You can probably tell that there's a little raspiness to my voice today. for those of you who know me. And that is because I've spent about 15 hours of the last 24 crying, because today would have been our 18th wedding anniversary. The father of my children, the father of my 4 beautiful children, the man who I had met when we were both in the service, 6'4", blonde hair, green-eyed, gorgeous man. I found less than 2 years later after that diagnosis, I found his lifeless body in our children's playroom. Because what I didn't know was that he was rationing his medication. He was rationing his diabetes medication. I had deployed a year before, right before he found out. And I just didn't know. We were so clueless to the struggle of diabetes. We just didn't know what to look for, what the numbers meant. We didn't understand how to manage it, because people survive diabetes every day. So imagine my shocked 5 days before Christmas, finding his lifeless body. Even with insurance, the cost of medication was absolutely astronomical. Since then, I have watched our children grow up without their father. I've watched our oldest son get married and have 2 beautiful sons of his own. And since learning about turning points, I often wonder, what if there had been something similar to turning points where we were when we lived in Kansas? Maybe, just maybe, he would still be alive today. And maybe our grandchildren, our children, his mother, his sister, his nieces, and his nephews would still have him in their lives. So I am so proud that we are able to provide health and hope to our community members here at Turning Points who are in need of medical and dental care, so that no Manatee County family ever has to know that kind of loss.
We're so grateful that Maria shares that powerful testimony, because she knows how important our work is here. And that's why she shares that with all of us. Our diabetes education program at the clinic is one of our largest parts of the clinic. Just this past year, our pharmacy in the clinic distributed $2 million in free medications for our patients. And that's through partnerships with pharmaceutical companies. It includes inhalers, insulin, even hepatitis C treatment medications. So it's just such an important part of Turning Points. So now I am actually going to turn it back over to Kathleen. Thank you, guys.
Well, I am happy to answer your questions, and I see only one lonely question in the chat box. So I'll start with that one lonely question while you think of your questions, other questions that you want to ask. And so that question was, how do you coordinate with the COVID funds from the state in Manatee County? What services does Manatee County support? Actually, Manatee County is a huge part of how Turning Points is in Manatee. They are our largest funder for Turning Points, even prior to COVID, but certainly now even more so, passing those state funds down and federal funds down through the county. So we have received several different types of grants around COVID. So we did the county provided some grants for PPE. So that's personal protective equipment, the masks, hand sanitizer, things of that sort. We did receive that grant several times. They helped us pay for additional cleaning service. So we brought on an additional cleaning service to help us make sure that with as many people, we see hundreds of people through our building every day, which you can imagine. We didn't shut down for one day. So people were a little scared, but offering that additional cleaning certainly provide a great amount of support for us. And so those were kind of the little pieces that specifically came with COVID, but then we've also received large grants that were from COVID funds that came through the county to be able to get people housed. So hotel funds to be able to help them while they're going through housing application and working on their housing, funds to get those who are literally homeless into housing. And so definitely the county plays a huge part in supporting Turning Points. Who do you locally collaborate with? Margie, you're gonna have to help me on this because there's like so many folks. So on-site, when we think about on-site, our largest collaborators, certainly we have Goodwill, Minnesota, right here on-site at Turning Points 5 days a week. So they have a job connections coach. Here's the thing is that when you say you're a one-stop center, like Turning Points does, we want to be one place that people can come to get the majority of their services. I could offer any service, pretty much anything, and it would fall under our mission. But I don't want to provide all of those services ourselves. So we want to be partnering with other agencies. They're experts. Goodwill is an expert in job connections, so we invite them onto our campus. We also have Centerstone on our campus, so they provide mental health services as well. Who else provides on campus? We're working with JFCS to also start providing mental health services on site. We have many, many churches who come on site. We partner with other agencies like JFCS for veteran services. So and we offer a monthly PATH meeting. PATH means people assisting the homeless. And we have about 50 agencies that attend that meeting, and we all collaborate with each other. In those meetings, we talk about services that clients that we don't have services for. How can I get a service? Does anybody know of a service available? So we all work really hard to collaborate together. Bring on the ministry, met with them today. You know, we talk about how we can collaborate and continue to do that.
And also, yeah, Ruth, you also answered your question too. All the Salvation Army churches, Manatee Community Foundation, United Way, Women's Resource Center, Habitat for Humanity, yes. Also, Hope, Hope Family Services. One thing too, Turning Points is the fiscal agent for Season of Sharing funds. So what that means, because we also partner with the Community Foundation of Sarasota County, in Manatee County, we receive the largest amount of season of sharing funds. So other agencies like Hope Family Services, what they can do, their case managers can do the intake and they have their own clients. So they send that to us and we approve the funds that can go to help that client at Hope. So besides, clients coming here looking for housing, we also work with other nonprofits and agencies, and we can approve that funding for them too. So yeah, we really collaborate with everyone.
And we're looking to do more. That's the reality. Like you sometimes when you offer so many services, you get a little comfortable, but we want to make sure that we are looking at where are people falling through the cracks and where are their gaps? Where is there overlap? And so that absolutely, over the last year, I've just been trying to get my hands around what we do here at Turning Points. And so now I'm really focusing this next year on understanding those types of things. Where are the barriers? Where are the gaps? Where's the duplication? Who can we collaborate with so that we can do even more? And I think that there's definitely room for growth for that. Any other stories about landlords with heart? Any landlord who's going to accept Turning Points clients has to have a heart for what we do, because our clients can be challenging, as you may imagine. Going from homeless to being housed is a traumatic experience, just like it is to go from having a house to being homeless. If you've been homeless for years, some of our clients have been homeless for years, going into a house is very scary. It's very isolating. It's not comfortable. It's not familiar anymore. And so our landlords certainly have to be very patient and work with those individuals, as they sometimes are also very scared to ever talk to the landlord if there's a problem. And so we absolutely love our landlords that choose to open their doors to individuals who have needs. And I know the next question was about challenges that our clients can face when it comes to getting housed. So an arrest record, an eviction, certainly anybody who's had any type of sexual offense. We definitely have landlords who just say absolutely not. And so that adds to the layers. Not only do those individuals now have a money crisis about needing low income, affordable housing, they now have these other barriers. And that's why with the eviction, it's very important for individuals to not get evicted if possible, because that will follow them. And then when you as a landlord are looking at two applicants, one with an eviction, one without, we can't blame them for wanting to take the person who doesn't have an eviction. And so that absolutely does provide additional challenges. And we do have landlords who, what I love is when a landlord tells their person to call Turning Points. So our landlords that provide affordable housing do know about us because we often work with them. They have to sign the lease, we work with them to get checks. So I love that they are reaching out to their own tenants and saying, look, I know you're behind, but Turning Points might be able to help you. Reach out to them and have that conversation about when they can assist you.
And one thing too, evictions never ever go off someone's record. You know, if you declare bankruptcy, if something happens, that kind of goes away. Evictions never go away. So that is such a barrier. It's really terrible. So I'll take the next question. Do you have cards with information on it we could give to those who are homeless that we see in the neighborhoods? We do have business cards, but we have something even better. We publish the Path book every year. So this is actually 70 pages of resources in Manatee County, a ton of different agencies, not just Turning Points, but all of our partners. And we have it in English and we have it in Spanish. So anyone can come by and pick up a stack of these and hand them out to the community.
Absolutely.
And anyone can come. I'll take the next one. Anyone can come to the PATH meeting, People Assisting the Homeless. So we meet on the third Thursday of every month at 9 a.m. and now it's on Zoom. So really, you can Zoom in with us anywhere, and you could see we do the funding grants updates and really just talk about what's needed in our community, what's new, what new programs. So anyone can join us.
Ooh, the next question's a hard one. And there's not a great answer to it. So affordable housing can run into that not in my backyard mentality. How do you talk to the community so that they see it as a challenge we tackle together? You can't win them all. I will tell you that there's always going to be somebody who will challenge and push and challenge and push and challenge and push. There will always be people that no matter what you tell them, they don't think it's their issue, their problem. I think it's about two things: utilizing statistics to talk about what's happening. I mean, it is shocking to people when they realize that 44% of Manatee County is basically on the brink of homelessness. Your neighbor could be that person, especially during COVID. COVID really leveled that playing field. Let people who were making $100,000 lost their jobs, got behind on their rent, got behind on their mortgages. And so I think there's something that kind of helps, to try to help to humanize and really make people realize that chances are some of your coworkers are struggling financially. It's not always about being even in a place of somebody that, got into this significant kind of problem for other reasons. It could be as simple as COVID. People lost their jobs. It happens every day. We have that conversation about how easily it could be you or me, because all it takes is that one big bill that you don't know how to pay. And so also it's, I cannot remember the statistic off the top of my head, but there is and you can look it up easily, how many people have more than 1 month worth of expenses saved up, because the reality is people with money also don't save money. And so that is a real regulator to say, look how closely, do you have enough money saved up to cover 4 months worth of expenses, 3 months worth of expenses? Because that, even 1 month, because it can truly, that's all it takes is one serious medical bill, something of that sort to level that playing field. And so we all need to look at it. Plus, it's support. when you take a look at things like schools, do our children deserve, do all children are a little bit of a level, they level the playing field as well when you look at children, because sometimes, unfortunately, people look at individuals who are homeless and say, oh, they did it to themselves. They must have gotten involved in drugs. They must have made some bad decisions. But there are also children and families where people who just have gotten behind, something happened. And now these children are also experiencing what happens when you now have this incredible stress of not having a stable place to live. And so I think that's helpful as well, to really kind of level that out for people and be like, you know, it's about our children, it's about our community. We all rise up when we lift others up, and we want a safer, healthier place for everyone. What are our hours? So that's, we are open 8 to 5, and our services for the Day Resource Center open at 7:45 until 2. So that's the showers, the mail, things of that sort, because we need time to be able to, well, first of all, it's challenging with volunteers to have them there all day, but then we put all of those individuals that came through in the day to our computer system and restock for the next day, get ready for the next day. So let's see, Rachel, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you on the side. She posted something about supportive and affordable housing project. And that's something that, you know, we talked about advocating, and that is a huge part of it. We need to educate ourselves about affordable housing and about what's happening in public policy. And we need to go out and support more affordable housing, more permanent supportive housing. There is no permanent supportive housing in our community, where individuals who need that additional assistance can have housing that also provides assistance wrapped around it for permanent. We have temporary housing, but we need permanent supportive housing. And I think it's about making sure that, we were just talking about the fair market value for vouchers for Section 8. They don't even qualify. The fair market value for the Section 8 vouchers are below what people are what our landlords are requiring. So individuals are getting Section 8 vouchers, but there's no place that will take that low amount of rent. And so they're, again, caught in a catch-22. So we need to look at that fair market value for vouchers. And so we all need to have a voice in supporting projects for affordable housing and encouraging more affordable housing in our area. Let's see what else.
And to go along with what Kathleen just said, even about Section 8, you know, I just want to read something. It was on Facebook last night in one of the groups I'm in. She says, I'm a disabled senior with significant health challenges. And I'm facing homelessness shortly because Section 8 will not pay fair market rent. So she can't even find a place that will, you know, a landlord will accept it, because there's that, you know, that plateau that they can't go by. And she's saying, due to my disability, I need to stay in South Sarasota. My health is failing. I'm afraid of what will happen. I really need help making calls, sorting, packing, moving, finding a place. Like, she's just asking for help. And it's just so sad. It's like stories like this every single day. It's really, really hard. So yeah, we need that advocacy. We need everyone helping us. And
it's a challenge here. I'm new to this community. I'm new to Florida, as I moved here just over a year ago, but I'm listening a lot. I'm hearing that our county and city don't work as well together to support affordable housing, to support programs that serve those who are vulnerable. And so folks are wondering why Sarasota gets more money than us. Why does Sarasota get all these things? Well, they're also willing to play well together. Their city and their county came together to start the conversation around doing things like homeless court, having HOP teams. So those are outreach teams, homeless outreach teams in the community. So we really need to be advocating to our commissioners, to our county, to our city, to say, you know, we do need support. We need you all to take this seriously, and we need you to invest in making sure that we have the infrastructure to support those who are vulnerable at this time. So Helen said, if we talk to a friend about this presentation, what would you like us to ensure that we communicate? I think it's really important that people understand that there are services available, and it's hard when you're talking about turning points, because we just overwhelmed you with so much information about the cool things that we do here. Like, just to think about the Day Resource Center, Margie has a cheat sheet. She's been here 6 years. She still needs a cheat sheet to tell you all the things because it's so much. The best thing you could do is tell people to come for a tour and just join us at Empower Hour to learn more, because there's so much information. But really, it's about making sure that people know services are available to those who are homeless, those who are experiencing homelessness, and those who are at risk for homelessness, that there's places that they can come and that there's a variety of services, and that it's not just for the homeless, right? That's what we heard Maria say. It's not just for those who are experiencing homelessness. Our clinic is again, one of those best kept secrets, because people think it's only for individuals experiencing homelessness. It absolutely is not. The criteria is that you are 18 to 64, you live in Manatee County, you don't have any medical insurance of any sort, and that you're 200% of the federal poverty level. And I'll tell you, that's almost every server in the, waiters and waitresses, folks who are working, landscaping, lots of jobs, Walmart jobs, lots of jobs actually will qualify. But again, people have always just associated us with homelessness. And so it's really important people understand that that's not true, and that our services in the medical and dental clinic are pretty amazing. I would absolutely any day of the week go and get my dental care done in our clinic as well as our medical clinic. The services we provide are top notch. These are doctors who have all had, our medical director was the medical director of Blake. He was a concierge private doctor. I mean, our doctors are retired. A lot of our volunteer doctors are retired specialists who have done incredible work over the years, and now they just want to give back and serve others. So it's really top-notch quality. So Margie put on there how to invite others to Empower Hour. How often does 211 refer people to Turning Points? I don't know that I know the answer to that. There may be data that I could contact 211 and say, hey, how often do you refer people to Turning Points? But I do not know. I do know that it does happen. We have had people say, 211 told us to come here. What else, ladies? Anything else? You can feel free to unmute yourselves as well.
I'm actually going to call us because we're a little bit over our time. So this has been just an incredible presentation, lots of wonderful questions. And I just want to thank everyone for joining and listening. And a special thanks to Kathleen and Margie for doing this as a special event for the League. And